Hi everyone, this is Jack from Maths Forge, and in today's lesson we're going to be doing standard form, reading and writing. So before you can actually convert to standard form, you need to understand what standard form is. Standard form is another way of writing numbers. For a number to be written in standard form, it must be written in the following way. A number A multiplied by 10 to the power of another number B. Now there are conditions for A and B. A has to be a number between 1 and less than 10. So A can be 1, but it has to be less than 10. And that's the condition for it to be written in standard form. As for the power of B, it has to be an integer. So that means it has to be a whole number that can be negative or positive. So let's go ahead and use this definition of writing a number in standard form to convert 300 to standard form. So I know that 300, this number 3 here, can be taken and written as 3 multiplied by 10. However, if we just multiply it by 10, it's going to give us 30, and we're looking to get 300. Well, I know that if I multiply it by another 10, it's going to give me 300. So actually, this can be simplified as 3, this number here, multiplied by 10 to the power of 2. Because of course, 10 times 10 can be rewritten as 10 squared. Now this number here, 3 times 10 to the power of 2, is written in standard form. The first number is between 1 and less than 10, and this second number here is 10 to the power of an integer. So this is definitely written in standard form. A quick way of doing this as well is just taking the first number and multiplying it by 10 to the power of how many zeros you have. However, it doesn't always quite work in this way because you're not always going to have a single number followed by a bunch of zeros. So if we check our answer, there it is. We'll do another OneStar example, but this time with a small value. So we're being asked to convert 0.0004 to standard form. If you remember standard form, you're being asked to write a number as a single digit between 1 and less than 10 times 10 to the power of an integer. So here we can see that the number's going to be small. And in this case, I'm going to write 4 multiplied by 10 to the power of a negative value. Of course, if your number has a 0 before the decimal point and a bunch of numbers after it, you should know that to convert this to standard form, you are going to have a negative power. Now think about how many places this 4 needs to move in order to become a whole number. Well, it has to move 1, 2, 3, 4 places to become a whole number. And this just so happens to be the power that we need here. So the value of how many spaces this 4 needs to move to become a whole number, which is 4 spaces, is the power that we write here. And if we check our answer, there it is. Now let's do a TwoStar example. We're being asked to find the value of 1 times 10 to the power of negative 3. So how we approach this question is we first begin by writing our 1 and a decimal point to the right of it. And then we know that this value is going to be a small value because the power is negative. And this 1 is going to move 3 spaces to the right. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. And so in our final answer, the decimal point will be exactly where it was before, but the 1 is going to be here. And there are going to be 2 spaces in front of it. Since we don't have any numbers there, we're going to use 0 as a placeholder. 0, 0, and of course 1 more 0 before the decimal point. And this is a quick method for how to take a number in standard form and to find its value. If there's a negative power, you're moving the number to the right because you're making it smaller, and the actual value of the power 3 is how many places you're moving it by. And don't forget to put zeros for your placeholders. If we check our answer, there it is. We'll do another TwoStar example where we're finding the value of 6 times 10 to the power of 4. Of course, 10 to the power of 4 is 10 multiplied by itself 4 times, and this is going to give us 10,000. So it's just a matter of multiplying 6 by 10,000. And this is going to give us 60,000. And this should be our final answer. If we check our answer, there it is. Now let's do a ThreeStar example. Here we're being asked to convert 0.0006456 into standard form. And if you remember, standard form is a number written as a single digit between 1 and 10 multiplied by 10 to the power of an integer. So how we do this is as follows. How many places do you need to move this number here in order for it to be a value between 1 and 10. So I'm trying to get this number here to be my A. Well, if you think about it, we need to move it 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to the left. If we move this number 4 spaces to the left, we will end up with this value, 6.456. However, we can't just move this number to the left by 4 places and leave it as it is, because the original value is much smaller. So because the original value is much smaller, we're going to take this modified value that we've just written and multiply it by 10 to the power of a negative indice. And the reason we've written a negative value is because this 6.456 was originally much smaller. So we want to try and maintain the value of the whole number to this original value here. So 6.456 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative, how many places we moved it across. If you remember, it was 4 places. So we're going to write a 4 here. And if we check our answer, there it is. So I'll just run through that one more time very quickly. Ask yourself, how many places do you have to move this 6 across to get it to be a number between 1 and 10? Because don't forget, that's the condition for writing a number in standard form. In our example, we had to move it 4 spaces to the left because 6.456 is a number between 1 and 10. And because the original value is much smaller than the value we've modified it to, we multiply it by 10 to a negative power. And the actual value of the power is how many spaces you moved it across. Now we'll do another 3-star example, this time with a larger value. So we're going to have 31,100, and 31,100 has a decimal place position to the right of it by default. So now you have to ask yourself this question: how many places do you have to move this 3 in order to get it to be a number between 1 and 10? And if you think about it, we have to move it 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to the right. If we move it 4 spaces to the right, we take it from the 10,000s column to the units column. And so it ends up looking like this: 3.1100. Now, there's no need to write these 2 zeros here at the end, as they're not going to change the value of the 3.11. However, there is a need to write multiplied by 10 to the power of. Now remember, our original value is much larger, so this modified value, 3.1100, has to be multiplied by a positive power in order to retain its original value, which is a large number. And how many places did we move it across? We moved it across by 1, 2, 3, 4 places, so that ends up becoming the power of our 10. And if we check our answer, there it is. And if you notice, there was no need to write the 2 zeros here, as I mentioned before. So our final answer, fully simplified, is 3.11 times 10 to the power of 4. So again, I'll just run through that very quickly. So ask yourself, how many places do you have to move this number here to get it into a value between 1 and 10? And then multiply it by 10 to the power of how many places you moved it. In this case, we moved it 4 places, so the 10 has a power of 4. And that's it for the lesson on standard form reading and writing.